Council of Governments meeting to order. We'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item is our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial and will be acted upon the council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or interested parties may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda. We've had a request already to pull item number 6 for a correction on the spreadsheet given. Are there any other items that staff or interested parties would like to pull? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 8B with the exception of item 6?
I move we approve the consent agenda as noted.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item number 9, public comment. Comments shall be limited to items of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council and are not on the agenda this evening. Are there any public comments wishing to be made? All right. Report on closed session. Oh, I'm sorry. Item number 6 was pulled. Melissa Raggio, will you go ahead and pull it back? Give us the information on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is a request to approve amendment number 2 to the public transportation modernization improvement and service enhancement account, subrecipient agreement between the Calaveras County Public Works Department and the Calaveras Council of Governments. What I would ask the council to approve is I've placed a new spreadsheet and the total amount does not change and the total project amount does not change. The slight change was under the fiscal year 14-15, which increased, and under the fiscal year 10-11, it decreased. So we just moved $18,000 from the 10-11 fiscal year and put it under the 14-15. So the project total did not change, and the expenditure total amount didn't change. So I would ask the council for consideration to approve this. The Board of Supervisors also have approved this item at their April 28th meeting. If you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any further questions? I motion to approve consent item number 6 as amended.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Ponte, seconded by Elaine Morris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Thank you.
Thanks. Report on the closed session. The closed session was held on April 1st pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. No reportable action was taken at that closed session. Agenda item number 11, presentation of the Regional Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Safe Routes to School Plan, update by Alta Planning and Design. Amber.
This item is informational and is a presentation of the draft Regional Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Safe Routes to School Plan. This plan is an update of the 2007 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plans with an added Safe Routes to School component, which includes specific strategies for encouraging walking and bicycling to school. In 2013, at the end of 2013, we executed a contract with Alta Planning and Design to conduct the update. And so I'll introduce Jennifer Wyatt with Alta Planning and Design, who will give us a little presentation of the draft and next steps.
Thank you, Amber. My name is Jennifer Wyatt. I'm with Alta Planning and Design, and I'd like to talk to you this evening about the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Safe Routes to School Master Plan. I'm going to tonight talk about the plan purpose, highlight community identified needs and input, an overview of recommendations, and then next steps. The plan purpose, the plan actually has a couple of purposes. One is to improve connectivity for residents within and between the communities of Calaveras County. And then also provide access to community destinations as identified by the communities, such as schools, parks, and retail. Then with the projects, prioritize funding. So prioritize which projects should be eligible for funding at what point. And then facilitate implementation. Having a comprehensive plan that is compliant with Caltrans standards helps the county and the city move forward with implementation. So community input, we had a community-wide survey with a great number of responses, over 237 responses, telling us what is good about walking and biking and school access within the county, and then identify challenges and challenge areas, which then informed a number of the recommendations. We had 2 workshops, very well-attended workshops, where we had community members tell us and mark up on maps their identified needs and their vision for this plan and the vision for walking and biking in Calaveras. We also had and still have going a website, Walk and Bike Calaveras website, which not only hosts this plan, but also hosts other events related to walking and biking within the community. The identified needs by the community, I'm sure are not a surprise to you. It's a rural community where we have narrow roads, where we don't have complete sidewalks in a lot of places. We don't have a lot of shoulder to provide clear bikeways or dedicated bicycle space. And it's a large county with a lot of potential infrastructure improvements. We were working closely with the county, and one of the directions we were given was to not acquire any right-of-way. So working within that framework of not acquiring right-of-way, identifying projects that could move forward. And then also concern for maintenance and liability, because you can get monies, grants to implement projects, but there are no grant monies to maintain the projects once they've been implemented. So from what we heard from the community, which was input from the workshops, the survey, and then comments that were submitted through the website, they want a more walking and biking community where they can walk for utility purposes or bike for utility purposes, to go to the grocery store, to go to the corner store, the park, or the library. And then also recreation, so trails and walking routes. So can we do that? That's a little bit bigger than what we can do with our project, but that is a need that the community has identified. Before I go into the recommendations, I wanted to do a quick 101 on bikeways. This is Caltrans standard, and we identified that in the plan this way in order to be Caltrans compliant. So Class 1 bikeway, it's a shared facility. It's a paved pathway that's used by both bicyclists and pedestrians that is outside the road. It's not a sidewalk, it's not a bike lane, but it's a separated facility for travel by both bicyclists and pedestrians. A Class 2 facility is a bike lane. It is a designated space that's striped and stenciled on the roadway, separate from the travel lane for moving vehicles. And then a Class 3 facility is where bicyclists and vehicles share the travel space. Generally, we recommend that where you have lower volumes and lower speeds, because bicyclists obviously do not go as fast as moving vehicles. However, if you have slower speeds and lower volumes, it is appropriate to have a Class 3 facility. So to give you an understanding of where we are right now, our existing conditions in the bikeway network, we have almost 22 miles of bikeways within the county. 17 miles of trails or off-street facilities that are not paved. About almost 3 miles of Class 1 facilities, that's paved, shared facilities for walking and biking. And just under a mile of Class 1 and 2 bikeways. I'm going to highlight the recommendations now. I'm going to start with the programs, projects and programs. When we talk about this plan, it's organized into 5 E's. One is engineering, which is the infrastructure projects, which I'll go into next. The other E's are education, encouragement, enforcement, and evaluation. These are more typically done by organizations within the community, not necessarily the city or the counties. And these are the priority projects and programs that were identified through the community needs analysis. A countywide Safe Routes to School plan, a countywide trails plan, and that addresses the need for recreation facilities. Revisit some of the unadopted plans that were done in the county. Student bicycle and pedestrian traffic safety education. The state is actually going to release, I think next week, a new standard curriculum for in-classroom teaching for students that matches with the new core curriculum, newish core curriculum, and that'll be available free for anybody to use. Another program is Share the Road Outreach, so that folks know how to share the road nicely with each other for bicyclists, pedestrians, and drivers. And then economic development is pretty important. It's a tourism integration, so working with encouraging folks to walk and bike and to come to Calaveras County to explore all that it has to offer. Bicycle parking, that's pretty important. You can have an on-street or off-street bicycle network, but you need somewhere to lock your bike safely afterwards. So we've identified that as well. And then one of the concerns we heard from folks was speeding vehicles. And one way to address that is to have the speed feedback sign. So its posted speed is 45, and it lets you know if you're going 45 or maybe 55, or just communicate to folks. It's a great encouragement tool to slow down. Now I'm going to go into the infrastructure projects. Before I go into the specifics of those, I wanted to share with you the evaluation criteria that was developed with close work with both the city and the county on how to move forward. These criteria include whether or not it has community support. Will it help stimulate economic development? By that I mean, does it connect to community destinations such as retail or recreation? Feasibility. Can the project be implemented within a short timeline? Maintenance costs, because as I noted earlier, we can't get monies to maintain the facilities that we build, so we want to make sure that we can maintain those things that we do build. Then whether or not a project connects to an activity generator, libraries, post office, schools, retail, and then of course proximity to schools. Schools are pretty important, and we work closely with county health, who's been doing a lot of safe routes to school work in the county. The total possible score a project could get is 100 points. So the bikeway recommendations, they are county-wide, they connect throughout the county, and they are organized in the Caltrans Class 1, 2, and 3, as well as a share the road sign effort. Where we could not feasibly fit in a bikeway facility, we are recommending that it be signed share the roadway. That is currently being used by the recreational bicyclists, but it's not deemed feasible in the near term to include a dedicated bicycle space. As you can see here, we broke them into tiers. So thinking tier 1 is for the short-term implementation, tier 2 is mid-term, and tier 3 is long-term. We've organized them into the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and then up to 20-year timeline. It includes over 250 miles of bikeways in the overall plan throughout the entire county. We also have, it's a pedestrian master plan as well. We have a number of pedestrian projects. We organize those by sidewalks, and then crosswalk signs and stencils. There, I'm sure as you know, there's like a number of sidewalk gaps within the city and county. So those were pretty important to the community in identifying those. So where there was available right-of-way, public right-of-way, and there was an identified community need, we made the recommendation to include a sidewalk. And this includes a lot of sidewalks in the key downtown areas of the communities. It totals nearly $12 million, but however, that's over up to a 20-year timeline, and again, they've been prioritized. The crosswalk signs and stencils were, again, by community input and also best practices and best engineering standards of where it is appropriate to put a crosswalk. This is about $2 million worth of projects over the next 20-year time period. Also, as part of this project, we developed a Safe Routes to School toolkit, which focuses on the 5 E's that are focused on safe routes to school. So engineering, it includes the basic tools of how you identify infrastructure projects around schools, education, what sort of education curricula are available to work with the students, encouragement, how can we encourage more families to consider walking and biking to school, enforcement, so working with the Sheriff's Department on enforcing the behavior that we would like to see, and then lastly, evaluation. How well are we doing towards meeting our goals? So the next steps for this plan, after tonight, we're having 2 community workshops coming up at the end of the month. Noticing has gone out. The plan is up on the project website. We hope to get a lot of input and good input on the plan. We will have the close of comment period June 5th so that we can respond to comments, prepare a CEQA environmental review, which will be done in June, and then lastly, adoption. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Council members. Jim.
I had a question on the recommendations for implementation. And I guess first to be clear, the report talks about priority projects. Does that equal tier 1?
Yes, the priority projects are tier 1 projects.
And you said those are to be done within the near term, which is like 0 to 5 years?
Yes.
I'm concerned that people will read this report and have expectation that the near-term projects will be done in 0 to 5 years. and we don't have anywhere near the available funding to achieve that. And I'm similarly concerned, even with the longer term, when we get up to the 12 or 16 million dollars, there's no way the funding is going to be available that we can proceed. So do we need to caveat this or pull back perhaps on the expectations? Because if I'm an advocate for this, and I read the report, I'm going to be really excited on what y'all are going to do for 5 years. And when my excitement wanes after 5 years, this plan doesn't have any legal requirements for me.
There are no legal requirements with this plan. This is just a planning document. And we can amend the implementation chapter to note that these projects will be implemented as funding becomes available. Because we know that most likely most projects will be implemented through grant opportunities and not through general operating budgets. But we can amend that section of that chapter to be more clear.
I don't know whether, but I think so. Just says not to lower people's expectations, but not to
Make it realistic.
unnecessarily. I mean, because it's great when I read that this could happen. It would be wonderful, but it won't.
For clarification, Jim, you're referring to section 6 on the implementation of the
Exactly.
overall project report.
Exactly.
All right.
And my other, one more comment and question. And there, sometimes the report says the plan recommends that the county and city consider doing this and that. Other cases it says the plan recommends that the county do this. I'm not sure if it's conscious, but I like it better when the plan recommends consideration instead of do it. The one thing, I don't know if folks saw the sidewalk issue. In places I've worked, it's so controversial. The plan recommends that the city and county implement an ordinance where the property owner is liable for and responsible for the maintenance of the sidewalk. Maybe a good idea. It's controversial. So that's an example where I think we get better if the plan recommends consideration of those, just to kind of be a little softer.
That makes sense.
And then my
Those
last
are good points.
My last question, I guess, would be understanding the environmental review process. It's a little confusing because we aren't doing the impact of each of the recommended projects. So what is the nature of the environmental document?
The environmental document will most likely be a mitigated negative declaration. And in that, we will state that projects will have further environmental review at implementation. We will not be doing a full environmental impact report for all the projects within this plan.
So if we implement a project, it would be subject to its own individual
Correct.
secret
Yes.
processing, either negative data or whatever. Thank you.
All right. Further comments by the council? Okay. Any comments by the public on the bike and ped plan in the draft that's been presented? Wow, I thought this was going to take a little bit more. Okay. I noted in the document, it talked about the bike to work day on page 5-5. When I looked it up, that's May 15th. So I maybe encourage staff to put that on our website, and maybe all of us consider biking to work. With no further comments, I guess we want to say thank you very much. It's a thorough document, and I hope that we get some additional attendance on the May meetings.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
County report. I'm actually not seeing our county representative for the county report. think we'll be moving on to the transit report. I see Deborah eager to approach the mic.
Yay. Well, I was going to approach it for county report, but I don't have a presentation, but I was going to put it out there if anybody has any questions, any public works unrelated to transit. Good. Okay, we're moving on to transit. Okay, we have for transit the mid-year report. This is a combination of the first quarter report that was presented to you back some months ago, and the second quarter that's been combined into a mid-year. And unless new objections come forth, I think that's the pattern we're going to stick to, is a mid-year and a year-end performance report. And the criteria in the process of being fine-tuned in the course of the short-range transit plan. So we had that, the joint session of the Board of Supervisors and the Angels Camp City Council, and that was a discussion of the performance report metrics, and we'll be getting that, I hope, soon. So this report is using the metrics that was kind of just following the pattern of what's been done for a number of years. So some of those things will change and others will stay the same. In this mid-year, the fare box recovery ratio was 9.82. And the operating costs continue to rise, but less sharply, and maintenance costs have gone down. They went down 22% in that half year. Something that bodes well as we move forward. Route 4 had a good increase, but the others were, ridership was down. Does anybody have any particular questions on the report? No?
Just one question. In that area of total maintenance costs where it shows that sharp reduction, is there anything you can put your finger on to attribute it to? Was it buying newer equipment, requiring less maintenance cost, or?
Well, that's not going to show just yet. We do have 2 new buses, and we are surplusing one and putting one as a backup. That might be part of it. Another part may be that we have a fleet manager who has good bus experience, and I think he's been able to do some on-site training with the mechanics, and it's been moving along efficiently. You know, and then sometimes it's just happenstance that the breakdowns fall this time and not that time. So. Sure. And other transit.
Question?
Yes.
When is the schedule for the paratransit contract? When is that supposed to be?
We're going to be, it actually is ongoing, and we're going to do a 3-month extension of this last option this last year, just to give us a little more time to move forward with that.
And does that contract, doesn't come here, that goes to the board?
It'll go to the Board of Supervisors at their May 26th meeting.
On May 26th.
So for the 3-month, but then we're still working, and hopefully we'll be getting to the board pretty quickly after that with a
3 months.
Okay. We have some system-wide service changes coming up. This was kind of triggered by the adding of the Burson Run, which is an on-demand service. So that caused kind of a domino effect of changes in the schedule, and then a lot of little fixes that kind of needed to be done. So as long as we're springing for new schedules, we're doing it all at once. So On our Calaveras Transit website, we have these documents that I have with me here. There's a notice of the service changes that are going to take effect, and there's a lot of little changes at each time point. So hopefully people will see these posters, these are posted on the buses, and the drivers are talking to the passengers and letting them know May 26th these changes are going to take effect. And I have these schedules that if you would like one, you may have one. We'll have the real brochures. They're being printed right now. So they're hard to read.
Is it hard to read, like, and hard to follow the routes, or?
Hard to see. There's
okay.
so much detail in them that
Okay.
it's almost impossible to have them big. We'll have posters, and hopefully they're at the printer now. Hopefully we'll have them in time for the fair, and hopefully have time to distribute to the social service agencies. Will be distributing them to their clients, and
Okay.
so the biggest change then is the on-demand route to Burson, and so we'll make a little event of the first run. Supervisor Edson has indicated a desire to be on that bus, but that's the supervisor's day. So if the meeting is over early, we'll get on the bus at the Government Center. It's at 12:55, I believe, or later at 5:50. Yeah, 5:55. So depending on how quick the board meeting is that day. But let people know. We'll go to Burson. They need to call the Calaveras Transit office 2 hours in advance.
On that board meeting, why don't you show up at the comment period and put the pressure on Cliff to finish it quick for the bus ride?
I'll remind him, I will.
Okay.
That'd be a good move.
And so another change that takes effect at the same time is that the time of Route 2 coming down from Railroad Flat will be able to connect to bus going to Jackson, give some shopping opportunities, or opportunities for people from Jackson to come and go to Railroad Flat. So I hope this all goes smoothly with the changes.
And you're ready for Frog Jump?
Frog Jump, yes.
Yeah.
Ready, we'll have our booth. I hope you'll come by and visit. If you'd like, let me know, and you'd like to volunteer to help corral people as they go by and find out what their transportation needs are and what we can do, how we can let them know. Oh, and that's not mine. That for Ride Your Bike to Work Day, you can put your bike on the bus.
I had one question. With respect to advertising revenue, what efforts are currently being made to try to sell ads? Is that something that is done in-house, or do you contract with somebody that is a professional in that area? Or?
No, we are the professionals in that area.
Okay.
Actually, there's quite a few different entities that like to advertise on the buses, and it's just been a matter of getting it done. So you'll see there's more, and there's opportunities, ads that we're selling for inside the bus as well, which is, and we're putting our own material inside as well.
Okay.
Did that start the first of the year, or?
No, there's been advertising for years on the bus. What we did around the first of the year was the Board of Supervisors approved a transit advertising policy for what the criteria is for advertising on the buses, and that gives us the leeway to evaluate proposed buses advertisements for appropriateness, so that we don't get anything that gets anybody too upset. Mm-hmm. Or, for instance, we had an ad proposed for the volunteer firefighters that was just, it was really striking. It was beautiful. But what it did was it made the back of the bus look like a fire truck. The design, it had hatch marks, and it was real bright, and fire volunteers needed, and it was a very effective ad, but we turned it down just for general traffic safety. Means you don't want to confuse traffic. So that kind of thing, and the advertising policy gives us that opportunity to do that. And if we had anything that was any kind of a controversial matter, we could take it to the board too for decision.
Okay. One last question or comment, Deborah?
Sure.
The route to San Andreas to Mountain Ranch is the route that seems to be hurting the most with respect to using these nice buses that we have for the low ridership that there is. It's been talked in the past that the transit system was going to get a couple vans to add to their fleet. What is the status of that?
The allocation request has been submitted to PTMISEA, to the state for funding, and they're shorthanded there, so we're still waiting to hear back from them. I was hoping it would be soon. It might be next month. As soon as we get the okay from them, we will bring the purchase to the board for approval and get those vans ordered. And we can use them for the Railroad, West Point, and Copper, or in any way that seems right to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So Deborah, I did have one question. If I remember correctly, the Burson Run was the implementation of last year's unmet transit
That
needs
is
findings. True. And I think I remember the Council of Governments requesting that the unmet transit needs findings and the services that are implemented be reported separately in the quarterly reports. So will we be able to move forward?
We will definitely be tracking those, all the ridership, all the demands. Yes, we will be tracking that so that we can follow the costs and the use of that route.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any staff member from the city looking to address the council this evening? Seeing none, I see our new representative from Caltrans. Looking forward to hopping up here.
Mr. Chairman and the board, it's Carl Baker from Caltrans District 10. Just a couple things to report today. Email went out to the agencies. The HSIP Highway Safety Improvement Program, Cycle 7, is open. Due date is August 31st. There's $150 million total statewide, a maximum of $10 million to any one agency. There's a webinar on May 21st, and again, the agencies have emails on that, but certainly that's a competitive opportunity that they should be looking into. The other is that the public draft of the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan is coming out. That's the plan, statewide plan, essentially that governs where money through what's called the IIP, the interregional construction money, can go. You get the regional money, but there's also additional pot for interregional transportation. That was supposed to be posted Monday, and I noticed when I checked it before I came here, there's nothing posted yet. So apparently that'll be coming soon, and we'll notify the staff and get the word out of that. That is something that you should consider in your review of the plan and in your comments. You know, clearly if you look at where the state's priorities are in terms of the major metropolitan areas, and it's also a multimodal plan, so it looks at things like intercity rail and goods movement. So it's a hard sell up here, but certainly it's worthy of your review, and I think we've already heard some comments, but certainly you should always take your opportunities to make comments.
So that's how you say no?
That's how I say I'm a very small piece of a very large machine. I think that's it for this month, unless there's questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Staff reports.
All right, I just have an update to the council on our citizen member recruitment. We began that process some months ago. We had 2 applications. One of those was withdrawn. The council direction was to keep the recruitment open so that we could have a few applications for consideration. We have received 4 applications to date, and so we would like to notify those applicants that we would be moving forward with consideration of their applications in August. So June is a very hectic meeting for us with final budget and overall work program. So with no meeting in July, we recommend the first meeting in August for consideration.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to update the council that the CTC guidelines on the development of our regional transportation improvement program will be going to the CTC in August. So we will begin the update to our RTIP. So Wagon Trail is the #1 priority project that is currently funded in the 2014 RTIP for design and right-of-way and construction of a phase of that project. So we will be updating that funding strategy, and we'll be working on that in the next few months with the final due to the CTC in December. So it's that time of year again, so I just wanted to let the council know that we'll be moving forward with the refinement of our strategy and starting to talk more with each of you about how we will start to advance the Wagon Trail project, which remains the council's #1 regional priority. And I think that that's all that I have, unless there's any questions for me. Yes?
Was it spring or in the fall that we're going to hear a draft environmental report on the Wagon Trail?
They are preparing to release that in June now. We had initially prepared to release it May 25th. Okay. I believe that has now been pushed to June 25th. Okay. Staff in Caltrans is reviewing an administrative review, internal review, but I believe they are planning the public hearings of the draft on June 25th.
Okay.
Tentatively.
All right. Thank you.
Ms. Raggio.
I have nothing to report.
Yeah. Ms. Collins?
I just wanted to update the council. We've added a kind of data services and GIS page, and this includes information on population and housing data, employment data, traffic data. It doesn't have all the data here, but where to find it if we don't have it. Just, you know, basic population data for the state of Angels and the county of Calaveras. And then also data profiles, which, you know, you can dig a little deeper. And then where to find additional data and sources. And it also has information on our travel demand model and services we provide for mapping and GIS, and also our youth plan model. So kind of a start of adding data resources for both our jurisdictions, but also we've been working with the Economic Development Corporation here at the county, and they're working on generating more information for people looking to, you know, start businesses here in the county. So we're looking to coordinate with them to add, you know, the information that they generate to our website as well.
Good. Any questions for Ms. Collins?
No.
No. Carla?
I just have a couple things. One is we've been looking at the agenda software system that the county uses for the last about 6 months. I've actually attended a training on it just to kind of see what it's about. Like, is it something that we could look into? Which, going along with that, would mean that we would have to purchase tablets. And so we've been talking with the county on having a contract with their agenda software system, and maybe if, like, say we have 2 from the Board of Supervisors, that we wouldn't have to buy them tablets. So we're looking into that because, as a couple of you know, we've had some issues with packets. One's gone to Anaheim instead of Angels Camp. And then this week, only half of it made it to Angels Camp. So we just had some issues. One, again, the 21st century, it's kind of silly printing so many pieces of paper, especially tonight's packet was really large with the bike and ped plan. So you figure almost 1,000 pages per packet. It gets a little excessive in cost. So we are researching that, and we'll bring it back in maybe August. And then a couple events. You guys have this flyer in front of you. So Joan Mazzetti, our ATP volunteer at the COG, she's been cutting this, and staff has been helping her with it as well. So the event is May 19th, and if you look at the back, there's a map of where it is. So we have Sandros Elementary. There's like, I believe, 250 students from that school participating. And then hopefully we'll have employees for the government center and the hospital participating as well. So we have that coming up. And then the second annual Sandros Cleanup Day is going to be July 11th. So we're in the beginning stages of that, partnering with Caltrans and a few Sandros groups. And then another item that we have coming up is June 24th. It's the Funding 101 workshop with Apex Strategies. It's to explore local revenue opportunities, and that's what I needed. I've requested some biographies from you guys, and that's what that is partly for, is Apex request. And that'll be at Camp Restaurant at Angels Camp, and I'll be sending you save the date probably Friday. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you, staff. Council member reports. Mr. Hamminger.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Councilmember Ponte.
Yes. Carly, I'm sorry, I need to send you that. I keep forgetting.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry about it.
You're not the only one.
So a couple of things that Destination Angels Camp had a presentation this past yesterday, I guess, and it was about a retail survey. And part of that, there was some discussion about transportation and links and that sort of thing. So I think at some point, as this information is getting out and there's more discussion, I saw an opportunity for COG and perhaps Transit to do a little networking with DAC. So I just kind of wanted to put that on the radar screen. I don't know when the timing is appropriate, but it kind of fit into COG's goals with economic development. And then there was that transit component about, shoppers getting from one point to the next and this sort of thing. So I just saw some opportunities for some networking and such with the three different entities there. Do we have any further information about our COG potential move or site? Is that something?
Actually, we did seek the approval for this evening to extend the existing lease. We did consider one other location at the corner of 49 and Mountain Ranch Road. What the COG was looking for was something move-in ready, comparable in terms of price, and we actually had a pretty tall order. We were looking for more space, more accessibility for less money. And so that was a pretty tall order. The only location that we were able to find after evaluation of a number of existing facilities was the Trading Post. I think that it was a move-in ready facility. We had the ability to occupy the entire building, which was 2 floors, for the amount of money that we're currently paying in our existing lease. After the council discussion, it was made clear that there is an interest in relocating the COG to Angels Camp. So after evaluation of additional options in San Andreas, there's nothing comparable to what we've got. So the recommendation is just to, and the approval was sought to increase or approve the one-time lease for 5 years. So we will be where we are for another 5 years.
Thank you. I just knew it was on the consent agenda.
Yeah,
Overlooked it, so I just wanted to.
Yeah, we did look at the corner, and there's a considerable amount of renovation that would need to be made. They are not hospital, exam rooms.
Yeah.
So there's no windows, there's no light, there's sinks, there's no computer hookups. Just our existing furniture wouldn't fit. no conference room. So I think we looked, the CCWD building would require a lot of renovation. COG does not have any funding to do any renovation work at all. So anything we're looking at would have to be really move-in ready. So
Thank you.
so that list is small.
All right.
And this saves all the stationery we're printing.
Yes.
Yes, it did.
And then I'm all for the tablet. When it was introduced to the board here within the last year, I was very hesitant about needing my paper copies of things. Now I'm so thankful I just get the paper agenda and everything else is on here, and you can make notations, and you can go back, 3 months ago, a year ago, you go do a search on a particular project and see all the information. So it's very, very handy. And all the boards I serve on, I tell them, don't send me I don't want any board packet, because it just really goes kind of in the recycle bin when it's all said and done. So I'm very supportive of that idea going forward. That's all I have.
Councilmember Kearney.
Carly already covered my wish list with the We Govern. Debbie knows more about it than I do. In fact, she just said a couple things where I'm going to have to bend her ear. But if anybody wants to look at it, know what we're talking about. I am not one to embrace technology and throw money out the window until I'm convinced. But once you get used to this, you won't have to get your paper agendas anymore. And these COG agendas are fairly involved and fairly technical. You're reading part of it and then say, oh, I really want to jump back to page 112. You can do that with a push of a finger, and you're right on it again. You can read it really easy. Thank you I really appreciate you looking into it. And with the cost of getting these, and I can tell you on another committee that I'm going to in the morning say exactly the same thing I'm saying now. We will pay for the cost of the tablets probably within a couple of years, I would say, easily, and you won't have the mess up with the agendas anymore getting to you. Thank you for doing that.
Councilmember Morris.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Coon.
Just one thing, I had to go back and look at my phone calendar to recall what happened this month, but early in the month of April, we had the second of 3 meetings for the Highway 449 corridor study. And during that second workshop, the consultant laid out a whole series of alternative road alignments and circulation flows and so forth. It was a lot of material to cover in the 2 hours they had budgeted. My thoughts were Allison did as good a job as she could and tried to keep the discussions on track. There were several questions from the audience that she answered while the whole group was assembled, and then chose to answer the rest of the questions at the various breakout tables. I got some feedback that everybody would have liked to have heard the answers. And so, I don't know, there's always going to be trade-offs as to what you do in a large group versus what is better accomplished in a small group, and I'm not sure I have the answer, but anyway, we'll probably talk about it again at the next community meeting as they start to put together the strategy for presenting the preferred alternatives and so on and so forth. So that's all I have to report.
All right. Well, I think someone was trying to give me a hint because they set the clock 2 hours fast, so it's telling me it's 9:20, but I do know it's only 7:20. Having said that, I want to thank the council for supporting my attendance at the California Regional Leadership Forum for the Council of Governments in Monterey. It was an excellent conference. It gave both Melissa and I the opportunity to meet not just even with local regional members, but actually statewide members. Because we do have a few minutes, I'm not going to indulge you too greatly, but I did type up a few bits and notes, and I thought I'd just give you a couple quick highlights of some of the things I took home from the conference that I thought are going to help me as a chair and help us as a council know what's coming up in the future here. One of the one of the fun things I thought initially was that more acronyms are coming, but they've gotten smarter and they've shortened them. So now you have the EV and CV acronyms to learn, electric vehicles and connected vehicles. We had the opportunity to talk with Bill Higgins, who's the executive director of the California COG, at length about where transportation funding and statewide project direction is going. Melissa had talked about earlier this evening the June 24th funding meeting, and there is a lot happening at the statewide level, given the recognition that both the California electric vehicle emphasis of moving forward in a very technically smart way is minimizing the use of gas tax. And as much as we, living in a rural environment, think that the gas tax is probably the most reasonable way of taxing our use of the roads, the statewide viewpoint, and it's becoming stronger and stronger, is that a vehicle mileage tax is going to be forthcoming. Oregon has already adopted this somewhat of a model. Washington State has gone to that type of model. What was nice about the opportunity to meet with these statewide leaders is to give them perspective, and I and several others, and I'll give you the example, we had the opportunity to have dinner with some different people. The lady I sat next to said, well, I live 17 miles out of town on a family-owned ranch that's been in our family for over 100 years. We grow grapes and we run cattle. And I said, okay, that sounds like a Calaveras County family. And she was from San Luis Obispo County. So our dynamics up here are not just east of I-99 or I-5. We have folks on the coast that have the identical type issues that we have, long distances, small roads. And I made the point to the gentleman giving the conference that as a rural entity, our roads are traveled pretty much at highway speeds. So when you look at vehicle mileage standards, you see there's a city mileage and there's a highway mileage. So we pay less per mile in gas tax even in the same vehicles because we use our roads fairly efficiently. We're not stuck in traffic up here very much. So when I made that point to him, and then I said the lane mile cost of a road up here in Calaveras County is significantly less than the lane mile cost of a road down in the Bay Area or down in LA or any urban center. Even though they're used by more people, when they're driving in traffic, they're not going at highway speeds. Likely, they're not even doing city speeds. They're probably stop and go many times in the morning and at night. So that was an interesting discussion, and I said, you know, the gas tax right now is weighted based on your use of the road, and if you're not using it efficiently, then you're paying more per mile. It's not fair to go to a mileage tax that's just a flat rate to all Californians. And so they've asked for feedback from that in an email. I actually would like to draft a more formal statement of what I've just said to you now verbally and have it as a council item, and I'll be bringing this back to you in June, so that as a Calaveras Council of Governments, we can make a formal statement saying we recognize that vehicle mileage tax is on the horizon, but we think it needs to be tailored to the region that you're in as well. And so that was to me a big point. That's going to affect a lot of people. The new technology that's coming out is incredible. When I mentioned connected vehicles as a new acronym, they have today the ability on Tesla cars to download an update, and the simplest form of transportation on a transit network today is a highway, or is a freeway. On-ramp to off-ramp. There's no intersections, there's nobody doing cross traffic, and Tesla actually has the ability today with the sensors they have in their cars to do on-ramp to off-ramp hands-free driving. Now, is this a good thing or a bad thing? What they've done on these studies is that if the cars themselves are connected, they understand where the other vehicles are through not just electronic sensors as far as radio links and stuff, but actually just physical sensors. Okay, I can tell there's a car 5 feet from me and he's doing X number of miles an hour. They can squeeze more cars in a same lane mile at a higher speed, and you improve the efficiency of that traffic network. So the connected vehicles is a means that Caltrans, and Caltrans is at the forefront of this, and I want to compliment Carl and his group down there in Sacramento. You don't hear that very often, but yes, we are complimenting the Caltrans folks that they are very keen on looking how to improve the efficiencies of the lane mile traffic. And if you can increase the speed safely, that's what the connected vehicles emphasis is upon. There was a presentation by a company called, and this is a nonprofit, Gomentum. They've created a test site in Concord that is 5 miles long, 1 mile wide, for doing the testing of cars that are being automatically driven. It's an old naval base. or an old Army base that already has existing roads with deteriorating lane markings. It has several underpasses, it has some tunnels, because the concern was, well, what happens if your car is relying upon some form of GPS or radio communication and it goes into a tunnel, like the Caldecott Tunnel, and you don't have it? How do the cars know where they're at and where they're going? And so they are doing a lot of testing. Funding from this is from Honda, Mercedes, and Allstate Insurance. Allstate has to figure out how to insure cars that aren't being driven by anybody anymore. And the likelihood of the accident is not from the car that's not being driven, but somebody who is driving a car that doesn't have this technology hitting one of the cars that is already automated. That's the bigger concern. They talked about ride sharing and Lyft. And Lyft and Uber are some of the new ride sharing technologies where people can get on their smartphone and say, hey, I'm going from this point to that point. Who else is doing it? Can you pick me up? And they actually have demonstrated, and there's a lot of issues with the taxi cab companies saying, hey, you're infringing on our territory. But Lyft and Uber to date have successfully argued that we're not the owners of these cars, we're not managing these cars, these are independently generated, they're independent contractors, and they're successful about it. What has created the large interest in transit now is that there's a concept called first mile and last mile. The people who are trying to go from their home to the transit pickup point to use major mass transit, and then when they get at their drop-off point, is that really where they're going, or is there a last mile they have to get to? My own personal example is I live in Copperopolis. My pickup point for Calaveras Transit is at Little John Road and Copper Cove Drive. Well, that's 3 miles from my house. So I actually have to get a ride from my home and either bike up there or catch a ride to that transit point. Then when I get here to San Andreas, I can get dropped off either at the government center or, and this was interesting for me, when I said I wanted to be dropped off at Pool Station Road at 49th, the other end of San Andreas, they said, well, that's the Valley Springs route, so you have to pay another 50 cents. So I did. And I got to the other end of town, and then I bicycled down Pool Station Road to where I work. And I work back on George Reed and thing. So the first mile, last mile issue is huge for transit because you can't get that fingering out there to the bedroom communities or to the work centers that are spread out. Lyft has done an analysis of their ridership share, and the numbers are very similar for Uber. Over 20% during major commute times in the morning and at night are not point to point, but are from your home to a major transit center, and then from a transit center to the person's closest place of work. They've also approached some of the major manufacturers. This doesn't apply so much up here in Calaveras County, but some of the employing groups that are in these major areas are actually getting discounted Uber and Lyft tickets to have people utilize them for ride sharing. Lyft was created when the guy was driving along stuck in traffic saying, you know what, if I was in an amusement park and I was looking at a ride and I'm sitting here waiting in a queue for an hour to get on this ride and I'm watching 4 cars go by, each car can seat 2 people, but only 1 person's in each car, I'm thinking it's taking me twice as long to get through this line. Well, he applied that same thought process to the highway usage today. How many times have you been on rush hour traffic, Sacramento, Stockton, or the Bay Area, and looked around and realized every car around you has 1 person in it? So his thought, and this is what created Lyft, was that if I can just get 1 more person in each of these cars, I just minimized traffic hassles by half, and most likely eliminated the traffic congestion that they had. So it was an interesting perspective and story on how that came about. PG&E is offering, and has it before, I believe the PUC, a large investment on car chargers. They provide the power. They want to put out 25,000 level 2 car chargers, which are the day-long it takes a charge to charge a car, and 100 what they call fast chargers in the next 5 years. That's a huge investment on their part. No cost to government. They want to get it back on selling the electricity to the cars being charged. And they have a business model that will make it work. Interestingly enough, and this was a technology conference for transportation planners, several of the folks there had electric cars and immediately raised their hands and said, you know, that's not a practical model. We were going to a car that's going to be recharged in a couple of hours so that we can drive our longer distances in the morning, go shopping, take 2 hours at a shopping center, or go to a medical appointment, or go to work in the morning, and then allow our cars to become available to us fully charged on the way home. Apparently this initial level 2 charger won't give them that full charge over the time frame that they were talking about. So I think they're going to be revisiting that to a degree. And it was just a couple comments from this leadership forum that was down in Monterey that stimulated PG&E's thinking about it because they had a pretty high up rep from PG&E making the presentation. Another new term that I had not heard of is called aspiring counties. And I have heard of self-help counties, and I've heard of counties that aren't doing anything, but I'd never heard of an aspiring county. Self-help counties are those counties that have gone before their constituents and asked for sales tax increases to fund transportation. And those are now known as self-help counties. They are recognized by the state. Aspiring counties are those counties that are looking into actively putting before the voters the opportunity to vote on a sales tax increase to fund transportation projects locally. The reason I mention that is that one of the things that we were given a heads up on is there's a new Senate Bill 16 by Senator Beal. He's the chairman of the California State Transportation Committee, and they gave a brief presentation on this. They want to raise $3 billion over the next 5 years through a combination of increasing truck weight fees, with the stipulation that the truck weight fees that are supposed to go to mitigation for the truck weight on the roads and road repair, which are currently redirected now to the general fund, get put back to the transportation repair directly. They want to increase the vehicle license fee, or vehicle license fee by $35 per vehicle, and they want to increase a fee on the electric vehicles which pay no gas tax and raise them to $100. So they're already recognizing that there are enough totally electric vehicles, the Volts, the Teslas, etc., that are out there paying no gas tax but still having an impact on our roads. They want to increase the gas tax, I believe by 10 cents a gallon. The goal is to take this money, this $3 billion, and take 5% of it and make it available to those counties that are aspiring. And that's why I wanted to make sure you understood that. If we look into the opportunity of raising our sales tax, we also make ourselves available, if this bill goes through, to the 5% of $3 billion, we can compete on that 5%. The other 95% is split 50-50. Half of it goes to local streets and roads. And everybody was very happy about that because that goes back to the counties as well, counties and or cities. The other 47.5% would go to Caltrans' SHOP program. There was some discussion about that because Caltrans' SHOP program isn't always, from our perspective, equitably distributed out, but there are some players that seem to get more of it than others. There's overall, the leadership forum voted to support Senate Bill 16 by Senator Beal, and to share the news that this is a short-term, realistic opportunity to get some real money back into our streets and roads. And so I'm sharing that with you, not to ask for a position on it, but more just to let you know this is what is out there in the next year to 5 years, where they're going to try and get some money to put back into our local streets and roads. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Hassan Ekrada. Hassan is the Executive Director of the Southern California Association of Governments. He's responsible for 5 counties and 191 cities. All he does is play with transportation planning, and he loves it. Guys, it's fascinating. He's Russian. When he first went down to Southern California, he said, I figured out this place. He got degrees from both USC and UCLA, so he could talk to everybody down there. And he is leading a lot of the efforts in the Southern California region for consideration of transportation improvements because the LA region is so impacted with transportation. Fascinating to listen to. Interesting presentation on people who drive today. He said we are moving from the boomers, the folks who were born in 46 to 64, and even the Gen Xers who are 65 to, I believe, 95, to the millennials. And he said the security concerns, the privacy concerns of the millennials, the kids who have been born in 95 or more recently, who have smartphones that always know where they are, who don't even think about typewriters, they don't even think about worrying about, the older technology that we grew up with, and I'm going to say we grew up with. These are the folks that don't have, they're more interested in sharing. If you look at especially the major urban markets, there's a lot more home sharing and condo conversions where the building is owned by a group of people and all the units are condos rather than single home ownership. The sharing dynamic of the millennials, he said, has increased the opportunity for Lyft and for Uber to be players in the transportation network. And as a result, when they're modeling for especially the urban environments, they're now modeling including these people from Lyft and Uber as part of the solution. It's not just somebody who's making money on the side anymore. They're actually a transit solution. One of the last comments I'll make is that they talked about the cost of putting parking spaces in a major transit center. They want to build a new BART station somewhere near Tracy or Mountain House and get it up over the Altamont Pass. A single parking space costs $37,000 as part of your overall capital improvement to acquire the land and have the space there. If you have 20% of your ridership now not using cars to get to your endpoint, you can reduce your parking facility by 20%. That's a significant savings, and that's where these types of numbers are starting to really come into play for the transit modeling that they're trying to do now. And again, it was fascinating to listen on the funding, on the technology, on where it's going. This is near term. When I say near term, 10 years, you're going to see a lot of connected vehicles, high occupancy lanes that are driven by cars that are being driven autonomously. The value in that is today you have the inchworm effect where you get cars that'll speed to 55 and then slow to almost zero because they see brake lights ahead. If all the cars are connected and understand that this group of 50 cars or 100 cars are all traveling at 45 miles an hour and the first car sees a little bit of slowdown, the whole group will slow down to 35 rather than the first car slowing down to 35 and the guy in the middle or the last is slowing down to 0 all the time. Again, more efficient use of the lane miles. So the connected vehicles, they fully expect that between Mercedes, Honda, and Ford, GM, and Jeep Chrysler have a similar type facility up in Detroit or in Michigan. They're doing it up there. The folks that chose to go momentum down here in the Concord site chose it because technically Silicon Valley is the world leader. You will find no better engineering than what you find down in California right here. Legislatively in Sacramento, Concord's halfway between the two, and you have to have the legislation to support the ability to allow autonomous vehicles to take the road. And it's coming really, really soon. There was an article I saw this morning when I was looking at the paper about trucks, and they're doing testing now with autonomously driven trucks because you have drivers who have to take mandatory rest periods. Well, if they can have a connected vehicle truck driving down the road that knows where it's at, the driver can go to sleep or at least be there to monitor it, but not always have to be awake. Maybe they can get longer times for a truck driver. It's more efficient use of the truck, more efficient use of the lanes, and hopefully fewer accidents. So, anyway, as I said, it was a fascinating conference. I again thank you for giving me the opportunity to go. I appreciate it. The funding seminar that we have coming up on the 24th will be dovetailing right into this new Aspiring Counties consideration. I would ask you only to keep an open mind. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, do we want to raise our local sales tax to fund transportation? I would have been an automatic no. Today, absolutely not. I think there's a lot of value to it. I understand where our roads are when I drive down Pool Station every morning or Moran Road on once a week when I visit with some friends. Our Public Works Department needs some help. And if we can get some money to them, then we can get some help and move stuff forward, and we need to do that. So, that was my council report. Thank you.
Very good. Glad you went, and thank you for sharing that information.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better representative to be there.
Oh, thank you. We now move to closed session. We have a conference with myself and Councilmember Morris with the council here. So at this time, I'd like to ask the CTTV to go ahead and shut down and close up.